Welcome to the Future of Less Work. I'm Nirit Cohen, and today we're talking about what it really means to build an AI-first workforce without losing the human core. AI is already changing the tools we use at work, but now it's starting to reshape how we define work itself, who we hire, how we train, and what makes someone valuable in a world where machines can do more. It's easy to treat this as a tech conversation, but if we don't rethink our talent systems, how we design roles, build readiness, create cultures where people thrive, we'll miss the opportunity to create something better. That's why I invited Jacqui Canney on this podcast. Earlier this year, Jacqui, Chief People Officer at ServiceNow, was given a new title, Chief People and AI Enablement Officer. That sounds like more than a rebrand, and it signals a shift we're just beginning to see across organizations, a recognition that AI isn't just a tech transformation, it's a people transformation. So in this episode, we'll ask how to build an AI-first workforce, what it means to scale AI fluency, and why eliminating junior roles might be the biggest mistake you can make right now. Jacqui, welcome to the Future of Less Work.
Oh, well, thank you for having me and for that introduction. It makes my heart sing to hear those words from you. So I appreciate you taking the time to bring this conversation to your podcast.
So thank you for this. And my HR hat, and I had earlier this, a few months ago when Microsoft published their latest work trends index, interviewed Colette Stahlbaum, or general manager of Microsoft Copilot. They came up with this idea that intelligence resources were replacing human resources. So when I heard your title, I thought, okay, we need to start with what's behind this.
Sure. Here at ServiceNow, prior to the title change, we absolutely always thought about our people as, that make our company. So having a workforce, which is now about 27,000 people, fully enabled to be able to do the work that we know they love and that our customers love, it starts with them. Like, what are the capabilities they have? What are the capabilities they need? And then what's the way that we can help them create that path to their ambition? And we were doing that before this past year, and a lot of hard work on that. And Bill McDermott, who's our CEO, really believes in the human capital opportunity before us. So my title was changed to become basically the team captain of those that report to Bill, to lead the charge that enablement will be our unlock for AI, for ourselves and for our customers. And it's really garnered a lot of attention because it is, I think, the future of where the CHRO role can even play further.
Yeah, but I'm listening to the culture behind what you're describing. A lot of conversation right now where leadership is talking about implementing AI, right? They're talking about something that sounds like, let's replace people with technology. AI can do some of the thinking we used to do. Let's bring in the agents and treat it like an Excel spreadsheet, down headcount, up agents. And you're speaking a different language. And I'm trying to figure out, I'm almost tempted to ask you why. What's behind it, right? Why are you speaking that different language?
So I'll go back a little bit in time even. I've been in HR for a while in different companies. And when you see technology shifts that have happened, although slower than this one, you can go back to digital, like on-prem to digital to mobile to the cloud to now AI. If you don't bring your people along in the business sense, you're never going to unlock the value of what a technology can bring. And I think now we're in a place where it's the greatest change management that I've seen in my career, and the ability to bring people along. I call it a human capital renaissance, to use the capacity that technology, agents, however people are talking about it, to use that capacity to learn new ways of working, to open up revenue streams. It's a choice. It's an important choice that companies make about how they will use that capacity. And it takes designing what you're going to do with that capacity to really gain the productivity or the top line growth or whatever it is you're searching for. And that at its core is, what do you do? How are you bringing your people along? Are you teaching them how to use AI? Are you teaching them how to work with AI or build with AI and be comfortable with AI and having a common vocabulary? There's lots of tools you can do to bring across, your people, but it does take intention. And that's what we are doing at ServiceNow.
So let's take that one level down. So what's different about a people strategy that you own, right? That you've always owned when AI is part of that business model, not just, part of the tech that people work with.
Yeah. So the role of HR changes from being, I call it, sort of traditional human resources. And some people call it now more like work design, because you take a role someone may be playing today and then imagine what it could be like in the future. And then what's the crosswalk? Is it what do they have capacity and time to do more of? Because AI can help be an agent in your pocket, or, your sort of like side, help, or whatever way you're using your technology, so that it frees up time to be able to potentially be better at meetings with customers, or better at asking prompts for all of us who are using AI. And but you have to, with intention, help people build those skills to be able to go from to. And that is a well, sounds similar to what HR was like. It's different now because you are really having with intention to think about what technology can do for people, and then how are you creating the capability in the humans to orchestrate more? Maybe not do more, but certainly orchestrate more. And that is not how we have worked traditionally. I don't
No.
think ever as a human society, right?
Yeah, it almost sounded to me like you were rethinking productivity, right? What you're
Mhm.
saying, what should you it's almost like what should AI free us to do as
Yep.
humans? And are
Like a
we doing that? How
of yeah.
Yeah, that's a really difficult task.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's intention and strategy. And I am only like I'm a peer of my comrades here, like with the CFO and the CEO and the chief customer officer. We're all equally involved in this. So it's not like this is just on me. They all see this as their jobs too. And I think that's also quite powerful, right? Is that you have the teamwork at the top to see the importance of bringing our people along. So the people strategy really is at its core the business strategy. They're saying the same things that I'm saying, so that our employees don't think, this is something that's just a human capital driven. It's a business driven imperative for our own growth.
Yeah, so if we stay with productivity for a second, if AI frees up time for people to do things and how do you think they should be reinvesting it?
Well, this is where I think people can. You have different methodologies. Some people are in some companies are like, let the flowers sort of grow, like have all the AI use cases just sort of organically happening, or inorganically happening, I guess, is like, at its core. Or you have a place where you put in some governance. Here, we use governance to manage our AI use cases. So measuring the ideas that our employees come up with and say, okay, are they easy to do? Are they hard to do? Are they high value or hard to do? Like, we have a rubric to go through that. We also bounce that up against our governance, our ethics, our values, and are we willing to take that use case on? And then if we are going to take that use case on, what's that ROI? So the point about productivity and measuring it is part of the way we determine what use cases are we going to put into sort of production, and what use cases maybe need a little more thought and work before we would do that.
Okay, can you give me an example of
Yeah.
a of how you've transformed a use case? Yeah, that'd be
Sure.
great.
So I'll speak to something in my own organization. My team is awesome, and they are constantly thinking about how do they use our own technology here at ServiceNow, and how do they serve our people better? What do they need more of? What do they want less of? And in our people operations team, they took on the task to think about that. And that's the team that gets the request from our employees when they have a problem, when they need to change something, or they need help, or they don't know where to go, or they need to ask questions. This is the place that absorbs that work. And when they redesigned the work and implemented our technology, they doubled their productivity. And I was so proud of them. The company's so proud of them. So it went from serving 1 to 400 to 1 to over 800 in a very short period of time. And the team that, worked on this and figured it out was able to put more time into helping people in this company with greater, more difficult situations or more complex questions that they had, and get better service, so the people had better service. They also were able to, some of them spend more time building use cases. So the jobs were starting to shift even for the team that created this productivity, not only helping people do more of what they, help them serve them better, but also create more use cases so we can continue to create a flywheel of opportunity for that organization. And others really became focused on training what the AI was responding to our people with. So I've seen the evolution in I'll say, a bit of a microcosm of the whole company gives me confidence that this is the way to work with some governance, some, change management. They've all were enabled to understand how to use the technology, to think about the right questions to ask, and then be able to have more time and freedom to do the things that they loved and wanted to do more of.
So I've got a couple things kind of flying through my mind right now. The first one is you're showing how they've reinvested the time, because when they serve 1 to 2x customers, right? One version that we keep hearing about is, let's just cut our workforce in half because we don't need them now. And you're saying, no, we reinvested their time to go do things we couldn't do before.
100%. That's exactly
And
what we did.
and they knew that, which is why they were confident enough to work on it. So it wasn't like I'm working my way out of a job. You didn't
Yeah,
find that?
I think that you can't underestimate that point, though, that you're making, even in places where people know they can reskill and learn new ways of working or gain opportunities that maybe don't exist or they can see in the future. That as someone who sits in my seat, I think about that a lot. We have to just, as a workforce, recognize there is fear out there about what this technology can do or might do, or myths about it, that as leaders, we have to have a forum to be able to talk about that. And I have constant conversations with my team. We have town halls, we have open forums. My leadership team, understands our direction, and we are very open about that. We spend time on learning and development about AI, not just for the HR team, but for the company. We had something called AI Day about 18 months ago, and we've rolled that into more frequent, but even just baseline setting, what can AI do? How should you learn about it? What's ways of working? And then in May, we launched ServiceNow University, which is geared to be able to upskill and just reskill and skill. We have a target of 3 million people. So it's not just the 27,000 people that we're bringing along, because I think that gives confidence. When you can say, I've got a certification in prompt engineering, I have more confidence that I know that I can do that and do it well. So that's
Okay.
the change management is very important.
And I love this, because here's what I hear you say, right? You say, I don't know how to promise everybody that nothing will change. In fact, you're not promising that, right? But you're saying, I'm going to bring you along and make sure I'm bringing I don't know if upskilling is the word, but I'm bringing your skills along, right? And so whatever it is, you're more skilled to do whatever you need to be doing in this new world for having gone through the transformation.
It's true. Yes, well said. And I think it's also our people know that they have accountability to learn too. This is a growth mindset, growth company, and that's really important. I've said before, like, the people with the best models or the companies with the best models are not necessarily the winners. The people with the workforce that's the most adaptive, that's going to be the winners.
So what do you think you're doing right that has people wanting to invest, whether it's kind of the university or the AI fluency, or in transforming their own roles?
I think it starts at the top. Our board is really supportive of what we're doing. Our CEO is of the leader thought I'm going to say the leader. I get to say that, in this space. He's absolutely rooted in culture and customer. And he talks about that every chance that he's in front of this organization, whether it's in a town hall, a broadcast, physically located. There's like, that's a very clear message. And he expects the same of his leadership team. So I have to say the tone from the top is really important about why I believe our people believe in what we are doing. We also have a value proposition here that we call the People Pact. And everything my team does and our leadership team talks about is rooted in that when we talk about our people. It's if you
What
come
does
to
that
serve,
mean?
sure, if you come to service now, you'll live your best life, you'll do your best work, and we'll fulfill our purpose together. And if you take that pact, which I think is greater than a value proposition, it's literally a covenant with our people. And they know by investing in us and us investing in them, the return is great. And I believe, we've been talking about this for years. It's not just new with AI. And I think that's why we're winning. And when we have questions or maybe disagreements, we have a very transparent culture of listening and talking about those things and explaining why maybe a decision was made versus what maybe someone thought should be made. And I think that's also helped us through COVID, through tech changes, and now obviously where we are today with agentic AI.
That's I hear you, and I'm getting kind of really excited here. Is like every one of my episodes ends with the same paragraph, and I always say that your best people no longer work because you pay them to, or because you measure them on it, or frankly because you tell them to. Right? They work because they want to, because by working for you, they're accomplishing what's important to them in life. Right? And I hear you describe exactly that, which I think is fabulous, because I truly believe it's the only way to drive transformation, even if it means working your way out of whatever it is you're doing now, which some of us are doing with AI these days. Um, okay, thank you for that. Let's talk about HR. I'm really curious. What does this mean for how you structure your team or measure success, or I don't know, focus? It's almost like it's a new HR.
Yeah, it's definitely a new HR. I'm not even sure HR is going to be the title of what people do in the future on this one. I don't know what the answer is, but there's a group, my peers and I talk about that. And it'll evolve into what it's supposed to be, whatever the title, turn into. But it is different. It's not going to be about process and policy creation as much as it used to be, because we will have the help of technology to be able to do those things quicker and better. But what we've done here is pivot to a product mindset for my team. So just like products are built for consumers or customers, I think about the iPhone. When that came out, it was the iPod maybe, or the Nano. I don't know. One of those early versions, and it just morphed into, what is probably the iPhone 16 now, I think. And having that kind of mindset about what we ship, the way products are shipped to the people of ServiceNow and the 3 million learners is really important to us. So how are we thinking about the experience of working here? How are we thinking about the experience of engaging here, whether that's through a learning environment or a promotion process or, an annual cycle of, helping your employees get their raises and things like that. We have flipped that into thinking about, we want to find you as a recruit. We want to build you and teach you and develop you as an employee. We want to reward you. And, so we flip the processes to be about the personas. And that's how we're evolving our work. And we get a lot better data, we get a lot more analytics, and we have had a lot more satisfaction. And it gives us the ability to pivot quicker if we're not meeting the satisfaction of our people, because we're testing and learning at the same time.
So I don't know if you can think about this, but I almost am tempted to ask you, if you fast forward a few years, and we just say a couple, right? Because the speed of change is so big, I'm not even going to say 5 years. Where do you think this function, right, of AI and HR together as resources for the organization will be, or maybe what's going to be different than it is today?
Yeah. So I was asked this recently, and I think that we have to be comfortable with a bit of a disintegration of the old org charts. So for my own self, thinking about the work we do and working with our CIO as an example, where there's a natural synergy you could see between the two, especially on, we talk about agentic AI. So how do we together morph to what is the role of enabling and building our people, and how are we creating the technology to support them? And I think that HR traditional is going to have more savvy technologists and strategists that are thinking like product mindset, and IT, CIO, DT, whatever, or digital tech, whatever companies call that, are going to need to have better design capabilities and skills than previous. So there's a morphing across of the organizations that may turn into one role, may turn into three roles, that I can't predict necessarily, as you say, but I think we'll all be better by not worrying about that so much and learning from each other, and then taking the best of what all these functions can do and putting it out forward with a new way of working, especially as you look across an enterprise.
Yep, yep. And HR has always had this thing going for us that since we have to go through these transformations maybe sometimes a little bit before others, where then, we know what it feels like when everybody else has to come through that wormhole. So sounds like you're actually on that path. You said something about early talent that really caught my ear. We talk about, well, we actually see the market these days, right? A freezing 0 to 2, 0 to 3 experience level, basically replacing AI with, or people with AI, especially at the entry level. And you've made a commitment to early career talent. And I'm curious about that.
Yeah. I really believe, and I don't think, I know I'm not alone. I know I'm not alone. There's many who agree or subscribe to a similar point of view that the generation, the cohort that's coming from early in career right now is the most AI native cohort that we have, in a talent pool. So whether or not people are saying this is the time to take out early in career jobs or not, I would subscribe to say that these are the people you need the very most. And in the US, you look at the population where there are fewer 18-year-olds, there are less of them going to college. So many of them are picking trade schools or other entrepreneurial opportunities that are limiting talent pools than maybe making this like too great a talent pool. So I see this as a different problem where there's a scarcity of talent in that early in career cohort. And our jobs and people like mine is to be able to go attract those great talented people who are comfortable working with AI because they already are. And then how do you bring them into a company so that they can learn what it's like to work in your company and have the opportunity to grow in your company? Because in 5 years from the time they start, they're going to be some of the most important leaders. They'll be the people managers for your company. And imagine trying to hire in at that level and and with your values, your culture, your experiences, your products, your customers. That's a lot for someone to absorb new in a particular, like sort of that point of the hierarchy that I'm betting that the early in career talent is exactly what we need to be investing right now.
And I think about what that means for your hiring process, because what you're basically saying is I'm hiring them for potential and
Yeah.
I'm hiring them for who I need them to be in a few years. And not necessarily because they can do a set of tasks of entry level role, which is how we used to hire them, resume against job posting. So, how do you go about hiring for potential this way?
Yeah. And I think we always, with that cohort, are sort of hiring for potential. I think you look at that cohort as more than what can they do right now, but what can you do, 3 to 5 years? And we assess for well, AI capability is important to the company, even as an entry level or in career. So whether you're in HR or finance or engineering or product, we do have in our assessment strategy, are people comfortable with AI? It doesn't mean you have to be able to build with AI all the time, right? Because you have different roles, but there's a comfort level that's a baseline for the company. And we are really excited because I think that that's how we're getting great talent. Now we've had, I want to say it was 600 interns this summer. And, they're just made all the difference for this company in the way that the energy, even the ones I had on my team, the building my AI enablement plan was an intern with some of the team here. And, it's getting those people who are curious mindsets, design thinkers, asking great questions, those things that you can assess for, and then having them learn this work here of what it would be like to be a part of ServiceNow, and then using technology to make them ramp quicker. That's what I think is a true unlock. It's not just about bringing in people with the right mindsets and the right capabilities and potential that you see. It's our job too to say it used to take X number of months or years to make someone fully productive in the role that they're in. How are we using technology with this great talent to shrink that to maybe months? And I think that's also an exciting part of the value proposition for that early in career talent, especially here at ServiceNow.
Yeah, that's it's really fascinating because when I listen to this with the ears of all the people complaining that young people don't have job opportunities these days, you're also saying it's actually the it's backwards, right? There's not enough people, and all you need to focus on is make sure that you understand AI, live it, breathe it, know what to do with it, are comfortable with it. The rest will teach you.
Yeah. And what people are not talking about, which is maybe it will come, is less about the early in career talent. I think that we all know, or we can agree, in what you just said, right? There's a need for that cohort. It's how are we enabling the managers now to be able to be the best people managers that they could, really be in the context of a very changed workforce in a very changed time. So
Yeah.
you're managing agents, you're managing hybrid work
Yeah.
locations, you're managing different experiences around AI, and you have potentially even greater responsibility than you ever had before because you're orchestrating more. And that to me is a conversation that we spend a lot of time on. It's very valuable to have these people managers feel confident that they have the tools they need, that they have the relationships that they need, the network that they need, and the support that they need to be able to do that job. And I know that that will be something that will become a bigger conversation, but certainly not as prevalent yet as I wish it was in the.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're touching on the fact that a lot of our basic skills and capabilities need to shift, and people management is part of it. I think a lot of what we taught people management, so especially first line managers, now everybody needs because they need to be able to bring in a whole bunch of agents, and a lot of the skills that have to do with defining success and measuring and reviewing that we gave first line managers. We now need people leading AI agents to be able to do, which is a whole other set of skills for managers. Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
It is.
Fabulous. So here's a question I always try to wrap up with, because we're good at trying to give answers. But I actually am wondering, what's the one question you think we should all be asking ourselves about the future of work these days?
I mean, I think it goes to what we just where we were ending is how are leaders coming along this change too? So you're a leader of a company, you're a leader of a team. What is it that you need to be able to make the decisions that you need to make, to lead the team that you need to lead? And as businesses and enterprises, how are we bringing that cohort along? Because that's truly at the heart of every enterprise. It's what is the people manager and what are they doing with their team? And how does the team feel about working here? And at its very core, that's the person, that's the role that makes the most impact. So how are we investing in there?
Yep. I'm almost tempted to ask you, have you seen some good examples?
Yes, I would say I have. I think that that example of the people operations that I gave earlier was because of a leader, right? A leader took the opportunity to listen to her team, to give it a chance to create a safe environment for them to take on new things. I talk about let's be the culture that is like, try this, learn from it, iterate it, not the culture that's don't break this. And that takes a leader to be able to create that environment with the governance, with the things, that we know, the tools and the data and all those things to come along. But that to me is a really good example and gives me confidence that we've got a lot on the right track here.
Fabulous. Thank you, Jacqui, for joining me today. For more about Jacqui and ServiceNow, check out the links in the podcast description. If you've enjoyed this episode, follow The Future of Less Work wherever you get your podcasts. And remember, your best people do not work because you tell them to, or because they have to, or because you measure them on it. They work because they want to, because by working for you, they're also achieving their own purpose in life. Till next time.